So we have finally figured out where Brendan Radley-Hiles, former Oklahoma cornerback, will be transferring, and we have got to talk about it. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. So hop down to the comments and give me a Y for yes or an N for no. And given that Radley-Hiles just announced that he's transferring to Washington, are you surprised at his transfer destination? And let me know what you're thinking there. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification because I do constant college football content, player reviews, film analysis, talk style videos like this, and I'm on my push to 5,000 subscribers in my first year, and I'd love to have you along. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to like and comment down below because that really does go a long ways in helping content creators like myself get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's talk Brendan Radley-Hiles. And this is a kid who came into Norman with all of the hype in the world and certainly all the ability to be able to back it up. He was very productive in his first season and showed flashes of real excitement. Sure, he had some true freshman moments within his first season, but you would have been just blown away if he would have put together the season he did, absent any true freshman moments. And all he did his first season was really stamp why he was rated the way he was. He really just showed a lot of flashes, but it never really was able to consistently come together for Radley-Hiles. And he's got all the talent in the world. He's probably one of the faster players in college football. Coming out of IMG, he was ranked as the 5th best cornerback when he was coming out of high school and fielded offers from every institution there was, ultimately picking Oklahoma. He was a key part of this team his entire time at Oklahoma, always able to find the field, but never able to put together really consistent play. Always flashes here, flashes there, but then flashes of just mistakes that were uncharacteristic for both himself on other plays and uncharacteristic for someone that had been in the program like he has. Ultimately, though, he has announced that he will be transferring to the University of Washington, and when you look at what Washington has done with defensive backs over the past few years, you have to love this decision. And I understand that Coach K just left Washington and now he's at Texas, and it would have been awesome to see what he could have schemed, because I really am excited for his scheme at Austin. I think he's going to do some really cool things, and there are some great content creators making videos about that scheme exactly. Look out for Nino's Corner and Texas Homer dropping a video really diving in deep to Coach K's scheme. That's going to be awesome. But Bob Gregory is now the new defensive coordinator at Washington, and they wanted to keep an internal perspective on their program because they did like what Coach K had implemented there. They liked the direction of the Washington Huskies football team, and how could you blame them defensively? That program has been phenomenal defensively and able to churn out phenomenal cornerbacks both in college football and then placing them into the NFL. Washington has been a very reputable team for quite some time, and they actually fielded one of my favorite cornerbacks of recent memory, Byron Murphy. I had a ton of fun watching him play in college, and he's a ton of fun to watch on the next level. And so because of that, I really like that Washington was able to find somebody internally that they're excited about in Bob Gregory. But the main reason why I have to really be excited about Radley-Hiles finding his way to the Washington Huskies has little to do with Coach K, even though Coach K is a brilliant defensive coordinator. It has everything to do with Will Harris, the cornerbacks coach at Washington. Now, this is a guy who understands the ins and outs of the position like the best of them, right? He is a guy that I'm actually very surprised hasn't been nabbed for a different position, even a defensive coordinator position at a different institution, but he's also a guy that I think after this season will be in a lot of different headlines. You'll see a lot of different teams should be coming after this guy. I have a lot of faith and a lot of excitement in him. He has, if you look at what he's done at Washington with their secondary, he's only continuously coached a top-notch secondary. He was there for the Byron Murphy. He's been there for all of these different secondary groups, and he's been hyper successful at all of them. And then when you look at he himself, he played defensive back for Pete Carroll's 2009 USC team, which was his senior season. So that was a very good defensive team, or at least a good enough defensive team to give you a lot of faith that he really understands what he's talking about at this level. And because of Will Harris being there, you have to be excited about what they will be able to put together with Radley-Hiles, because I know Will Harris has to be incredibly excited at the prospect of someone with the athletic ability of Radley-Hiles coming in. Now, the question for Oklahoma is, what do they do with the loss of Radley-Hiles? And, ultimately, even though this really hurts, the Sooners will be all right. Alex Grinch is going to be able to figure something out. They have some options coming in. They have some options on roster already. But, the Grinch secondary and the Grinch defense has given fans enough reason to really be optimistic that they will be able to put something together. But even though I think that the defense is going to improve for Oklahoma, I think the main thing we're looking at on the Oklahoma defense to be able to help that secondary really find itself in that mid to later portion of the season is the Oklahoma pass rush, and how can that affect opposing quarterbacks? Because even though Oklahoma looks to field a better defense, let's also not get away from the fact that that offense is going to be one of the best in all of college football, if not the best. Certainly on paper, it's going to be hard to stop, especially when you add in phenomenal running back Eric Gray from Tennessee. On paper, that offense is deeper than really any other because you add the continuity of play caller, of quarterback, of receivers, and they even lost Rambo to Miami, but that doesn't really affect the bottom line when you look at all of the phenomenal receiving talent Oklahoma has, the running back talent they have. They got some guys up front on the offensive line. They got Spencer Rattler coming back. So while this hurts for Oklahoma, I think it hurts more in the sense of what Radley-Hiles meant for this team. If you listen to Lincoln Riley talk, he's said on multiple occasions that the loss of Radley-Hiles is going to hurt the Sooners more than most people will realize, and it might not even be from an X's and O's standpoint. It might just be from a leadership standpoint. When I hear something like that, I ultimately think of a guy, just because it's palpable and it was very recent, last year in like a Landon Dickerson for Alabama. He goes down, and you have Chris Owens, who's a very talented guy who can come in and hold his own, but Landon Dickerson meant something special on an emotional and on a leadership level to that team that even though ultimately they were able to prevail, it was a massive hit, and you could see the attitudes around the team when he went down. Shoulders dropped, and it was because of what he meant. And so even though ultimately OU will be fine, because even though their defense is going to be much improved this year, and it looks to continue improving, the main catalyst, in my opinion, for that defense is going to be their front seven and how they're able to affect the quarterback. And because of that, it will allow a new secondary to really grow and flourish with Grinch, because he has a plan in motion. But even then, right, even though we've talked about the defense and how it looks to improve for Oklahoma, it just needs to improve enough for them to be able to keep their offense on the field to really do what their offense does, because the offense isn't stopping at all. I think it'll actually even get better than last year, which is a scary prospect. But I can't wait to hear from y'all, because this is a situation where Oklahoma, there's really no way to say that they ultimately win in this scenario. I don't necessarily think that they lose. I think that they have a lot to look forward to next year. I think that ultimately if they could have kept Radley-Hiles, you would, because of his talent, and you just kind of really hope that he can put together a consistent season, because if we're talking talent, he's up there with the best of them. But ultimately, I am very excited to see what Will Harris does with him up in Washington, because if there was a program that could really turn him into something spectacular, Washington is certainly up there, and Will Harris is certainly that guy, and he's kind of closer to home being from California, so that'll be nice for him. Can't wait to see what y'all are thinking about this. Hop down to the comments, let me know if you think he will find success in Washington with Will Harris, and what do you think Oklahoma does on the secondary to kind of help mitigate these losses. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment down below, and subscribe. That's it. See ya.